Welcome to the Over and Under podcast Wednesday episode edition. It is yours truly, Charles Comer, coming to you this morning. James is not here. You know, bills got to get paid, work's got to get done. So I will just be rocking the episode today. We got a couple topics we're going to talk about. Arizona being a Big 12 sleeper team. My top 10 wide receivers this year to look out for. The matchups of Georgia versus Clemson, and also the matchups of Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. But first, I want to get to the quarterback of USC that no one really knows, Miller Moss, right? Miller Moss got the starting position for USC in 2024. So not a lot of you know much about Miller Moss, but we do know that in the Direct Bowl of 2023, he threw for 23 out of 33 passes for 372 yards and 6 touchdowns. And he was on the scene. Like, he made a name for himself that night, and everyone was like, who is this guy? And Lincoln Riley has found another gem, right, of a quarterback. He was a 4-star recruit out of Mission Hill, California. He was ranked as the top 10 quarterback in California in his recruiting class. He signed at USC in 2021, and funny enough, he was recruited by Steve Sarkisian when he was an Alabama offensive coordinator. As we know, him being at USC, he didn't get to play much in 2021 or 2022 as he was behind the great Heisman winner Caleb Williams. So going into the 2023 season, he was looking to transfer out, right? At the end of the year, you know, Caleb's gone. He doesn't know if he's really going to get the starting spot. He feels like he's waited his turn. And Lincoln Riley gives him a call, you know, when he's trying to trying to transfer out and really trying to figure out what he wants to do. And he says, hey, I'm gonna give you a shot in the bowl game and let's see what you do. So obviously he had a great game, right? 372 yards and 6 touchdowns for a quarterback that no one really knew because Caleb Williams kind of overshadowed him. And yeah, so we'll see how he does versus USC versus LSU this Sunday, a Sunday game, which I'm kind of excited for because you don't get to see that much in college football. So we'll see how Miller Moss does. We'll see if the wait for him to be on the scene was worth it, or we'll see if Lincoln Riley is really not the quarterback whisperer that we thought he was. So moving on, also the G5, right? The G5 getting an automatic bid for the 12-team playoffs. Now, a lot of people have their takes about this, right? Some people believe the G5 should have its own playoff. Other people believe, you know, the little guy deserves to have a chance to play against, you know, the top schools. And my thought is, you know, I don't really think they do. When you look at it, the G5 is going to get the last spot, right? So let's say Liberty is to go undefeated, having not having the easiest schedule according to toughness schedules, and they don't beat anybody. They don't play any Power 4 teams. They don't play any Power 5 teams. So you're going to take an undefeated Liberty, 12-0, that's going to go play, let's say, Oregon like they did last year, and at Oregon's home field advantage, and they lose by 50. And we're going to be like, okay, yeah, that would have been a better game than giving, let's say, a 93 Texas A&M a chance to be in there because, one, they're in the SEC and it's, you know, a tougher conference. And that wouldn't have made great TV, right? Now, I'm not the person who's like, oh, TV ratings and this has to be great. But I love to watch a game that's competitive than to watch a game that I know is going to be just bad. You know, they're just going to get ran over. So the last team that got that position for the playoff was Liberty. They had the weakest schedule in all of college football last season, and they got annihilated by Oregon in the New Year's Eve Bowl. The highest ranked G5 is who gets the position. So let's say in 2022, Tulane was ranked 16th. They would get into the 12-team playoff. In 2023, Liberty was ranked 23rd, so they got into the playoff, right? I don't believe they deserve a bid if they aren't in the top 10. If they don't have a strength of schedule that's in the top 20, I just think we're just wasting a playoff spot for the little guy just to make them feel better and just to say that, hey, we gave them an automatic bid. We're doing our part, right? I think that their standards need to go up if they want to have that spot guaranteed, right? You need a top 20 schedule. You need to play 2 or 3 Power 5 or Power 4 teams, and you need to beat them, right? You have to have an upset or two, or it has to be competitive. Maybe it goes down to the last second on the goal line. Maybe they kick a 51-yard field goal, to win the game, and you battled all game, So something like that has to happen. So for me, the G5 getting an automatic bid for the 12-team playoff is not a good look. So hopefully the NCAA or the college football committee, playoff committee will get that together, and we don't have that going into the 2026 and on season, because we have the 2024 season and the 2025 season that the 12-team playoff is guaranteed that we're doing 12 teams. And then after that, the committee goes back to deliberations and they decide if they want to expand it to 14 teams or 16 teams, which that is another conversation that we'll have to have another day. So let's go ahead and move on. Arizona, Big 12, going into a new conference, coming from the Pac-12 that got, destroyed because they don't know how to run their organization. But in 2023, they were projected to only win 4.5 games. As the season ended, they were 10-3, and they won the Alamo Bowl. So they bring back one of the most prolific quarterback wide receiver duos. You got Noah Fafita and McMillan. They've been playing together since they were in high school. So there were some worries as there were head coaching changes that the guys would likely exit Arizona and hit the portal. However, that was not the case. They said that they wanted to stick together. So if one was going to leave, both were going to leave. And I don't think McMillan wanted to leave. Well, sorry, I don't think Noah Fafita wanted to leave, but McMillan did. And at the end of the day, they both decided to stay together because of that bond and the friendship that they have. Noah Fafita is mostly recognized for his accurate passing ability. He recorded over 71% true passing accuracy last year. However, he's often looked as a liability, as he has to make decisions on the run. He has to make decisions on the fly and run the ball. And his small frame of 5'10", 188 pounds can be a concern overall for his health on the field, right? Small quarterback taking those hits over and over again can be a concern for most people. But however, Fafita recorded over 2,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions last year for the Wildcats. So had a pretty good year. Now, we have to talk about the other side of that duo, McMillan. He's a guy that you will definitely see playing on Sundays. He had the lowest drop rate in the Power 5 conferences last year. And also his overall stats-wise, he was third behind Roma Dusday and Neighbors from LSU. That's great competition to be in, right? To be behind those guys is definitely you're up next. Offensively, I expect a big year from Arizona, even with the new head coach Brent Brennan from San Jose State. I think that they'll bring a very pro style offense. I think McMillan may be in the Heisman talks early if he has a breakout year. I don't think Noah Fafita will, just because his frame, and there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks this year that probably will have better stats than him. But as far as accuracy and getting it to his number one target, McMillan, I think they're going to be great. However, defensively is, I think, where the Wildcats have to improve this year going into the Big 12. They really don't have that much of a pass rush. That's where they lack great talent. Tyola Savay, one of their star defensive tackles, left to go play for Texas. So their whole defensive line is full of transfers. And with those transfers that are coming in, none of them had a passing rushing grade above 60% last year. So the defensive trenches will look to keep an eye on. and we'll see how that plays out this year for the Wildcats. All right, so now you can have a great quarterback, you can have a great offensive line, but somebody has to catch the ball, right? And somebody has to be able to turn it up the field and gain you yards. So I want to give you my top 10 wide receivers to look out for this year. You may agree with them, you may not. And this is going in order, right? So I believe this is 1 through 10. So we'll go ahead and start from there. As I talked about just a moment ago, McMillan from Arizona. I think he's going to be number one for me. Luther Burden from Missouri. I had a breakout freshman year, right? So under that Missouri team, I think he's going to be even more important. Travis Hunter from Colorado. As we all know, he plays both ways, right? So I think him as a wide receiver is going to be good for Shador as they have a new offensive line this year and a lot of key pieces also on the wide receiver core. So look out for Travis Hunter this year. Tess Johnson from Oregon, right? Tess Johnson from Oregon is somebody who's going to be important for Dylan Gabriel, who is the new transfer quarterback from Oklahoma to Oregon. So keep an eye on Tess Johnson this year. Emeka Ubuke from Ohio State had a good year last year. Had some injuries late in the year that kind of kept him on and off the field. As they have William Howard, right, that's coming in, new quarterback that was from Kansas State. So they got a whole new power offense with Jashad Junkins coming in from Ole Miss. And, yeah, they got a lot of pieces up there at Ohio State. So look for Mecca Ukuba to have a great season. Trey Harris from Ole Miss. As we know, Ole Miss spent a lot of money this offseason to get a lot of the defensive recruits and also offensive targets. So look for him and Dart to have a good connection. Xavier Restrepo from Miami, number 7, right? He might have one of the best opportunities to lead in passing. Well, sorry, in receiving yards, because Cam Ward is going to be his quarterback, and Miami has a pretty stout offensive line. So I believe that Xavier Restrepo can definitely be one of those top guys in the wide receivers in the country. So we'll continue to look at that. Calhoun Lacey from Louisville. Don't really know much about Louisville, the quarterback situation, but Lacey does have a pretty good route running ability, and he also doesn't drop many passes at all. So definitely want to keep an eye on Lacey. Colston Loveland from Michigan. Michigan's having a quarterback battle right now that you just got to keep an eye on. We'll see the first game of the season, how it looks, and going into like the first 3 games to see who they rock with. But Loveland is definitely going to continue to catch balls and definitely be a force to reckon with in that offense. And last but not least, Isaiah Bond. As you know, he played for Alabama, was the one who caught the dagger in the bowl. Sorry, the dagger in the Iron Bowl against Auburn last year in the last seconds of the game. So he transfers to Texas, so he'll be in that offense, high-powered offense, I might say. So we'll see how he turns out this year. I really put him last because I don't know how much Texas is going to use him. I don't know if he's going to be wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. Maybe some plays in motion and then slot will try to get him open, and definitely he's a deep threat also. So, yeah, those are the top 10 wide receivers that you should look at this season and that you should pay attention to. And I'll update that list as we go on, as the season goes on, just to keep you updated and see who's doing well, who's doing bad, and who's just not having that great of a season or who's having an outbreak season. So, yeah, I'll keep you updated on that. Now, we got to get to the game analysis, right? We got to get to Georgia versus Clemson, and we got to get to Notre Dame versus the Aggies. I'm excited. Week 1, college football. We had an exciting week 0, as you know, Florida State lost to Georgia Tech in a walk-off field goal fashion. And then you had SMU and Nevada also in a crazy, crazy game with some costly turnovers at the end, and finally SMU figuring it out. So yeah, I'm excited for week 1, and this Georgia Clemson game is going to be exciting. All right, so we got to dig into Georgia first. Their off-field issues were bad this offseason. They had 24 driving incidents where it's with its players since January 2023, in which 2 of their players were killed in a high-speed chase that involved alcohol after that national championship parade in 2023. Sorry, in 2022. I don't think Georgia has a culture issue. I think they just gotta just be more disciplined, right? They gotta have more consequences for their players that are doing these driving incidents, because 24 is absolutely insane. That's like people saying, "Yeah, I know what the consequences are, and I can basically withstand those. So let's just go driving and let's be reckless in driving." That's a bad look for your program, right? That's a bad look for recruits. That's a bad look for maybe your NIL donors, and just overall a look at Kirby Smart as a coach, because he runs that program. So, what are you doing to control that, and what are you doing to prevent that happening? Georgia not going and winning the national championship game for the first time since 2020 was mostly due to their defensive slump. Georgia was top 20 in yards allowed, 4.8 yards allowed on per play, and they were only allowing 12.1% explosive pass plays. However, their run defense was ranked 49th in allowing explosive running plays. So good pass defense, overall good defense. But if a team has a great running game, they were running all over Georgia last year. As you saw in the SEC title game, Alabama definitely was running all over Georgia, and they had some good games last year, or some tough games last year, close games, where a team was able to have a pretty consistent running game that gave them some trouble, right? However, a couple of good offensive portal additions. Trevor Etienne from Florida, the running back, comes in, and Colby Young, the wide receiver from Miami. The defensive staff, Travion Robinson, joins the staff from Alabama. And yeah, so overall, Georgia still has a core to their team. And their big leader, Carson Beck, who is one of my favorites to win the Heisman, I think he's going to have to step up and lead his team to be really focused this season, right? The defense is going to have to step up, because everyone knows that you don't run the trenches in the defensive line like you did previously when you won a national championship. So overall, that's what I look into Georgia going into this game. We got to see if their defense can withstand, and hopefully Carson Beck can continue to be a leader on the offensive side and get it done. Excuse me. Now, we go on the other side of the field, and the Clemson Tigers. Dabo Swinney is coaching his 17th season of college football. Last year was one of the worst years for Clemson, as they came out ranked 9th, and they lost the first 4 of their 8 games, right? However, Clemson did turn it around, after some harsh criticism from fans to Dabo about, why do we pay you $11 million a year and you go in 4-4, which I think is pretty harsh. I think Dabo Swinney has brought a lot to Clemson, a couple of national championships actually, but that's not for me to hear to say of how much he gets paid and what I think his record should be. However, they did win out the rest of the games. They won the Gator Bowl, and one of the things that still concerns me is they didn't use the transfer portal this offseason, or they didn't have enough funds to go get the guys that they wanted, right? So despite Clemson, however, not using the transfer portal and adapting to the new college football tactics, Dabo is 16-9 against all SEC opponents. And I think that's kind of a good leg to stand on going into this game against Georgia. However, Clemson bringing back their underwhelming starting quarterback, Cade Klubnik, who everyone says was better than DJU when DJU was at Clemson, but I haven't seen it. DJU is not great, but I don't think Cade Klubnik is a tier above him, so they kind of may be in the same category. However, they do have. However, Clemson does have a defense that I think that could keep them in the discussion of being top of the ACC. So that would be something that we look at in this game to see offensively, have they worked on, having more of a wide receiver threat and more of a established running game? And defensively, can they withstand Georgia's offensive powerhouse? Right. So for me, Georgia and Clemson, I think it'll be a good game. But I don't really think Clemson will have that passing threat first game coming out, and Georgia is going to be Georgia. So I see it being a 30-21 game with Georgia on top. I have an option to change that Friday episode, but that is my early prediction for the Georgia and Clemson game. All right, we'll go into the next game. You got Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. The Mike Elko era is here, right? The Aggies finally got rid of their liability, Jimbo Fisher, with a nice $77.5 million chunk of change buyout. I would retire after that. I just want to let you know right there. Wouldn't coach another second of college football if that was a buyout I got. Highway robbery, if you ask me. However, the Aggies do bring in a familiar face of their former defensive coordinator, Mike Elko, who was coaching at Duke. Many ask, will he be that guy, right? Will he be the guy that brings Aggies back to glory? I think he will, but not with some bruisings and scuffs on the way, right? Texas A&M lost one of their best defensive linemen, Walter Nolan, in the portal to Ole Miss. However, they brought in the best edge rusher in college football last year, Nick Scruton from Purdue in the portal. So they did lose a piece on the defensive line, but they also added one. So hopefully that key piece will continue to strengthen the defensive line and, make it very competitive. The biggest concern for me, for the Aggies, is not just keeping Connor Wigman healthy, which he hasn't really been that healthy the last 2 seasons, or their running back depth, but their interior offensive line, right? Their 3 starters, you got Chase Bizenitz, you got Mark Nobu, and the Kansas transfer Reed Adams. Last year, they were all under 65% grade for offensive line gameplay. So they got great tackles. The Aggies got great tackles on offensive line, but that interior is a question, right? That interior is weak. So can you run inside the tackles is going to be what we got to see from the Aggies, because you may be able to run the counters, may be able to run the jet sweeps with the tackles on the outside, but can we get downhill with the blast or the dive plays to get us those 1 or 2 yards or to keep moving the ball forward, right? So that'll be something to look for. That'll be something to look forward to from the Aggies. And then we got Notre Dame, right? Marcus Freeman, 3rd year. He has to get it done. I always give coaches 3 years to basically have one of those seasons where, all right, we picked the right guy, right? And Marcus Freeman, this is his year. He has to get it done. They have to make the 12-team playoff. They went into the portal and they got another transfer quarterback. Last year they got Sam Hartford. This year they got Riley Leonard from Duke, who kind of has been injury prone through his career. But according to the Irish, he's healthy and he is good. He's going to be good to go. If this game, however, goes how I think it will, I got the Aggies and Mike Elko making a big splash on their debut Saturday, right? I don't think Notre Dame has it all together defensively. Offensively, they're going to start a couple of freshman tackles and a freshman center. So offensive line is kind of out of whack. Defensive line is not in a great position. So give me the Aggies. I got the game going 27-21. Close, but in the end, I don't think it'll be that great of a competition, right? Now, No, I kind of rushed through that, but just want to give you guys just a Wednesday episode of what's going on in college football and a couple of predictions that I have with the first games of the week. If you could please just subscribe to the channel, like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, right? I'm going to be uploading this today on Wednesday. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. That's going to be all for me. This is Charles from the Over and Under podcast. I'm out.